The president met privately today with Senators Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, two vocal filibuster reform opponents and holdouts on Biden's $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill. Biden must get Manchin and Sinema on board with his economic package because Republicans are fully united against it. And although Democrats may try to pass it using a budget reconciliation bill with a simple majority, some say Biden might have also taken the opportunity today to discuss filibuster reform, something pretty much required in order to pass a voting rights bill and other agenda items. But whenever we talk about filibuster reform opponents on the Democratic side, we tend to only name Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, right? But the reality is it's not just them. There are other Democrats who are also opposed to it, at least at this moment. They're not as vocal. According to a new report from Politico, more Democrats are speaking out on filibuster reform, like Senator Chris Coons, a close confidant of President Biden, who said, "Let's not get there yet. We've got other stuff that's got to happen, like right now, the fight over voting rights and the filibuster is not coming to head next week. It is coming to head in the coming weeks if there's no receptivity at all in the Republican conference." And Senator Mazi Hirono, who said, "I'd like to get rid of the filibuster, sure, but people are not particularly prepared to talk about filibuster reform before we even have figured out that all 50 of us are on the same page on the party line social spending plan." Being the deciding vote makes you the kingmaker, right? It makes you super powerful. What if we've created such a terrible precedent that the moment Manchin moves out of that kingmaker role, someone else just jumps into it because they see that they too can be that powerful? Joining me now to discuss is former Deputy Chief of Staff for Harry Reid, Adam Jentleson, and President and CEO of the National Coalition for Black Civic Participation, Melanie Campbell. Adam Jentleson, I want to give you the first question. I kind of garbled your name there in the beginning. So there are now more Democrats who are kind of saying, don't press the gas on this filibuster thing right now. We have other things to deal with, which is basically what Biden had been saying all along. I mean, there are other things that are more important to me that are at the front of the line than dealing with voting rights and the filibuster. How do you feel about what is happening right now?
Right. Well, there's sort of two problems here. One is the fact that there is a lack of urgency around filibuster reform. I think that filibuster reform should be front of the line. I think it's necessary to pass virtually all of President Biden's agenda, starting with voting rights and all sorts of democracy reforms that are necessary to counter the conservative assault on our democracy that we're seeing today, which many experts have called the worst wave of voter suppression since Jim Crow. So, I think it's wrong to place it at the back of the line. That's problem number one. Problem number two is getting the votes. And they're linked, of course, because as the president, until you turn your full attention to a problem of this magnitude, you're never going to get the vote. So listen, I think, the reality is what it is. I think Democrats have to get through the reconciliation process and pass whatever they can through this sort of omnibus process that we're going to see unfold in the next month or so. But what I'm hoping will happen is that when that is done, we will have a real honest to goodness showdown on filibuster reform centered around voting rights. Biden will turn up the gas at that point, put his pedal to the metal, and really put the pressure that is required to get the necessary votes here. I think when he does that, those reluctant senators who so far have not been on board will come around. Biden has unique credibility on this issue. He alone can stand up and convince people like Sinema, Manchin, and Coons to come around on this critical issue. And my hope is that he will do that.
So let me ask this other question. When Biden earlier this week, the Rolling Stone was asking whether or not Biden was going to, start a private pressure campaign on the filibuster. That's what they were reporting that he was going to do. Do you believe, Ms. Campbell, that this meeting today was the beginning of this private pressure campaign?
It's my hope that it is, but we can't get there on hope. So I think for us, I mean, I was on Capitol Hill today with women who represent not just civil rights, but also women's rights and reproductive justice, because the issue also is linked. What's going on with reproductive rights against women in Texas has really elevated the issue. And then we connected it. Voting rights equals reproductive rights. And so the reality is, if there is no filibuster reform, I agree with my brother on with me tonight that you won't have an agenda that is passed. But the issue of voting rights is something that we all have been pushing throughout the summer, and we have to also put the pressure on and continue to elevate the pressure because time is ticking away. We're 2022 is really here already, and so we have to really make sure that there are laws on the books like the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. We know that the Freedom to Vote Act has just been put on the floor as of yesterday as a quote unquote compromise. But whatever the case may be, we're going to have to continue to put. I think the advocates, the voters, building stronger, even more broader coalitions to put the pressure on for it to be pushed to the front of the line, so to speak, to make the change. It's not going to be easy, but what does that have to do with having to do what we need to do? And we're going to keep pushing, keep doing what we need to do to get this done. The idea of losing our voting rights is not something that we can allow to happen. We have to keep fighting until we win this battle. We put these people in office, and we have to challenge them continuously to do the right thing and have more courage, quite frankly.
So, Adam, you were describing, having things proceed in order, like, start with the infrastructure bill and the spending packages, and then after that is done, that maybe they could get around to dealing with the filibuster things. But as Melanie was pointing out, 2022 is already upon us. Once you get into the heat of the election season, is the time already up for getting major things done? Will there still be enough political capital available to get the voting rights bill done or get the filibuster changed, if not eliminated?
Well, yeah, I cannot agree with Ms. Campbell more. I think 2022 is here. If it were up to me, they would have reformed the filibuster and passed the voting rights bill, a week after President Biden was inaugurated. But I think to your question, I think there is, time left. I mean, you talk to experts on these things and they say, look, the census data has been released. States are starting to draw and release their gerrymandered maps. Once that's done, that gets harder and harder to fix. You need time to implement a lot of these reforms, and some of them will take time to implement before 2022. So the longer you wait, the harder it gets. But I would say two things in response to that. One is that end of year deadlines can be very powerful in Congress. Having worked there, having been through a number of deadline driven crises that were backed up against the end of the year, one of my hopes is that if they're able to deal with these other items like reconciliation and the debt limit and government funding that are coming down the pike, and still have some time left in the end of the year, a filibuster reform fight, a fight over voting rights could be something that if President Biden takes the initiative, he could back up against the end of the year. In Congress, we have this expression called jet fumes, which is the lure of wanting to get home for members of Congress, wanting to get home for vacations and holidays. There's no more powerful time when jet fumes kicks in than the end of the year. So it has an accelerating effect. It makes people cut deals and take steps that they normally wouldn't take. So I'm hopeful that that can happen. My second point is that this is not just about 2022, but 2024 as well. Hopefully Democrats will retain their majorities in the House and Senate. But if they don't, this might be the last opportunity to enact voting rights and democracy reforms, not just before 2022 elections, but before the 2024 elections. So no matter what, it is critical that we pass this, even if it's the day before the elections in 2022, it is critical that Democrats pass this so that at the very least they are in place before the next time we have a presidential election, when we have the Republican Party, as we have seen very clearly, dedicated and willing to put themselves in position to overturn those results. So I think no matter when they pass it, as long as it's sometime in the next year or two, they have to do it.
Adam Jentleson and Melanie Campbell, thank you both for joining me tonight. Next up, the city of Boston makes a small step towards progress. You're watching Prime on BNC.